Good evening. Day 21, put yourself into a better place. I'm Robert Gibbons. As always, I'd like to honor my mother and my father, Dorothy and Robert, my grandfathers, Sammy and Jethro, my grandmothers, Berthy and Maddie, Ashe. I just, learning to live in isolation and learning to deal with myself. And so I decided to honor my name. My father's name is Robert, and my name is Robert. And so I want to read for you today from my favorite Roberts. And so I will start right there. And I'm learning to honor the possession of being at home. I'm learning to free myself in isolation and quarantine, and I'm learning to shelter in with my favorite Roberts today. And so the title of this segment is The Favorite Robert. And in honor of my father, Robert, I'm going to read some poems to Robert. The first one is from Robert Bly's book entitled A Man in a Black Coat. The Man in a Black Coat, from Robert Bly, and he wrote a poem called Morning Pablo Neruda by Robert Bly. Water is practical, especially in August. Faucet water that drops into the buckets I carry to the young willow trees, whose leaves have been eaten off by the grasshoppers, or this jar of water that lies next to me on the car seat. As I drive to my shack, when I look down, the seats all around the jar is dark, for water doesn't intend to give, it gives anyway. And the jar of water lies there quivering as I drive through the countryside of granite quarries, stones soon to be shaped into blocks for the dead, the only thing they have left that is theirs. For the dead remain inside us, as water remains inside granite, hardly at all, for their job is to go away and not come back, even when we ask them. But water comes to us. It doesn't care about us. It goes around us on the way to the Minnesota River, to the Mississippi River, to the Gulf, always closer to where it has to be. No one lays flowers on the grave of water, for it is not here, it is gone. And the title of that poem is Morning Pablo Neruda, from Robert Bly's book, The Man in the Black Coat. Thank you, Robert, number one, for blessing us. The next Robert I pulled is Time and Material, from Poet Laureate Robert Haas. And Robert Haas wrote a poem in his book called Exit Pursued by Sierra Meadow. Exit Pursued by a Sierra Meadow by Robert Haas. The second Robert. The slow, rhythmic flickering of wings, as if from the ache of pleasure, a California tortoiseshell hovering over a few white milkweeds. Smell of water in the dry air, the almost nutmeg smell of dust. Goodbye, white fir, Jeffrey pine. I have no way of knowing whether you prefer summer or winter, though I think you are more beautiful in winter. Scarlet gilia, corn lily. I don't know which you prefer either. So long, horse mint, your piebald mix of lavender and soft gray-green under the cottonwood, on a shelf of lichened granite near a creek, may be the most startling thing in these mountains. Besides the mountains, it's good that we've stopped just for a minute to look at you, and then walk down the trail because we had things to do. And because beauty is a little unendurable. I mean, getting used to it is unendurable because if we can't eat a thing or do something with it, human beings get bored by almost everything eventually, which is why winter is such an admirable invention. There's another month of summer here. August will squeeze the sweetness out of you and drift it as pollen. And the title of that poem is Exit, Pursued by a Sierra Meadow, from Robert Haas's book, Time and Material. Thank you, second Robert, for blessing us. The next Robert is from Robert Frost, The Voices of the Poet. And the title of Robert Frost's poem is One Step Backward Taken. Not only sands and gravel were once more on their travel, but gulping muddy gallons, great boulders off their balance, bumped heads together dully, and started down the gully. Whole capes caked off in slices. I felt my standpoint shaken in the universal crisis. But with one step backward taken, I saved myself from going. A world torn loose went by me. Then the rain stopped and the blowing, and the sun came out to dry me. And this is taken from Robert Frost's book, The Voice of the Poet, One Step Backward Taken. Thank you, third Robert, for blessing us. And the final Robert that I will share with you today is a very significant Robert. And he didn't claim his name as Robert, but he was a Robert. His name was Robert Kaufman, but you know him as Bob Kaufman for the Beat Generation. And it's such an honor to read from Robert Kaufman's work. And he will be the fourth and final Robert for me in this series. Thank you so much for being in my virtual company. Would You Wear My Eyes by Robert Bob Kaufman. My body is torn in mattresses, disheveled, throbbing places for the coming and goings of loveless transience. The whole of me is an unfinished room filled with dank breath, escaping in gasps to nowhere. Before completely objective mirrors, I have shot myself with my eyes, but death refused my advances. I have walked on my walls each night through the strange landscapes in my head. I have brushed my teeth with orange peel, iced with cold blood from the dripping faucets. My face is covered with maps of dead nations. My hair is littered with drying ragweed. Bitter raisins drip haphazardly from my nostrils, while schools of glowing minnows swim from my mouth. The nipples of my breast are sun-brown cockleburs. Long forgotten Indian tribes fight battles on my chest. Unaware of the sunken ship rotting in my stomach, my legs are charred remains of burned cypress trees. My feet are covered with moss from bayous flowing across my floor. I can't go out anymore. I shall sit on my ceiling. Would you wear my eyes? And the title of this poem is Would You Wear My Eyes by Robert Bob Kaufman from the Beat Generation. It's such an honor to honor yourself and reflect on yourself. And today I reflect on my father. His name is Robert, and my name is Robert, and to honor the Roberts that are in my life. So I started off with Robert Bly, the man in the black coat. And then after Robert Bly, I went to Robert Haas, Time and Material. And then I went to The Voice of the Poet by Robert Frost. And I ended up with Solitude, Crowded with Loneliness by none other than the Beat Generation poet, Robert Bob Kaufman. This is day 20. I hope you are sheltering in. I hope you are reflecting on who you are, your family, and your community. This is day 21. Put yourself in a better place. I'm Robert Gibbons. Thank you.